Ford is pulling the plug on some of its plans for electric trucks. This comes as the company announced a change of production at many of its plants focusing on EVs.
It is a big question in the car world right now. For years, the message from Detroit was clear. The future was electric, and it was coming fast. Companies like Ford and General Motors announced ambitious plans, investing billions to transition their lineups to electric vehicles, or EVs. They spoke of a future where cars would be quiet, clean, and powered by batteries. But if you have been paying attention lately, you might have noticed that the tone has changed. Announcements about new electric truck models have been walked back. Grand plans for factories have been put on hold. It has left many people wondering what happened to the great electric vehicle revolution. So, why are Ford and GM hitting the brakes on their electric future? The simple answer is that they are facing a reality check. The road to an all-electric future has turned out to be much bumpier and more expensive than they expected. It is not that they are giving up on the idea completely. They're just realizing that getting there will take a lot longer, cost a lot more, and look a lot different than they first thought. They are now in the middle of a huge and painful reset, one that is costing them billions of dollars and forcing them to go back to what they know best: building gasoline-powered cars and trucks. Think about this for a moment. What would make a company walk away from a project it has spent years and billions of dollars building? For Ford, the pivot has been dramatic. At the end of 2025, the company announced it was taking a staggering $19.50 billion charge to restructure its electric vehicle business. That is one of the biggest financial write-offs the auto industry has ever seen. As part of this, Ford made a decision that would have been unthinkable just a couple of years earlier. They decided to end production of their flagship electric pickup, the F-150 Lightning. This was the truck that was supposed to show the world that an electric vehicle could be just as powerful and useful as a traditional one. It was even named Motor Trend's Truck of the Year in 2023. But Ford admitted that for large electric vehicles like this, there was no path to profitability. They were losing money on every one they sold. So, the F-150 Lightning as a pure electric model is no more. General Motors is going through a very similar struggle. They have taken billions of dollars in charges to adjust their own EV plans. They have paused construction on battery factories and even canceled plans for a new EV factory in Michigan, deciding instead to build more gas-powered vehicles there. They have also had to face the reality of the market. After the federal tax credit for EVs expired, their sales took a major hit. In the last 3 months of 2025, GM's EV sales dropped by 43% compared to the year before. Some of their most promising models, like the Blazer EV and the Equinox EV, saw sales fall by more than 70%. It was a clear signal that when the government incentive went away, so did a lot of the customer interest. With numbers like that, it is easy to see why a company would get nervous. But was it just the end of a tax credit that caused all this trouble? The truth is, the trouble runs much deeper. The biggest problem is that the customers just are not showing up the way the car companies hoped they would. For a while, it seemed like everyone who absolutely had to have an electric vehicle had already bought one. The next group of potential buyers is much more cautious. These are regular people who have a lot of practical questions. They look at the high price of an EV and compare it to a gas car. They worry about finding a place to charge it, especially if they live in an apartment or don't have a garage. They hear stories about batteries dying in cold weather or taking hours to charge on a road trip. This range anxiety and charging anxiety are real barriers. A Ford executive summed it up by saying that customers want the benefits of electrification, like instant power, but they also demand affordability. Right now, for many, EVs are still too expensive and too unfamiliar. You can see this hesitation in the sales numbers for January 2026. Ford's overall EV sales plummeted 69% compared to the same month last year, while sales of their gas-powered Mustang shot up by more than 50%. People are voting with their wallets, and for now, they are choosing gas. The second huge factor is money. Building electric cars and the batteries that power them is incredibly expensive. Ford's electric vehicle division has lost a staggering $13 billion since 2023. They simply cannot lose money forever. This is why they are making such painful cuts. It is also why they are pushing back their goal of making their EV unit profitable all the way to 2029. GM is facing the same pressure. Their solution is to try and make their batteries cheaper. They are working on new battery chemistries that use less expensive materials like lithium and manganese, which could lower costs without sacrificing too much range. They are also trying to control the entire supply chain, from mining the raw materials in North America to building the batteries in US factories, so they are less at the mercy of global price swings. But those are long-term solutions to a very short-term problem. So, if the demand isn't there and the money is flowing out the door, what happens next? Where does this leave the average person who just wants to buy a new car? The car companies are changing direction, but they are not giving up on the idea of electricity altogether. Instead of a single-minded focus on pure EVs, they are now pursuing what they call a menu approach. They want to offer customers a choice: a traditional gas engine, a hybrid, or a fully electric vehicle. For them, hybrids are the perfect bridge. They offer better fuel economy than a gas car, but they don't cause the same anxiety as a pure EV because they have a gas engine as a backup. Ford is now planning for 50% of its global sales to come from electrified vehicles, which includes hybrids, by 2030. They are also working on a new type of vehicle called an EREV, or Extended Range Electric Vehicle. This is essentially an electric car that also has a small gas-powered generator on board. You can drive it on electricity most of the time, but for a long trip, the generator kicks in to charge the battery, giving you the range of a gas car without needing to stop and plug in for an hour. And what about the affordable EV? Is that dream dead? Not entirely, but it is getting more complicated. GM recently brought back the Chevrolet Bolt, which at around $27,000 is the cheapest new EV in America. But here's the twist. They have already announced it will only be made for about a year and a half, by 2028. The factory that builds the Bolt will be switched over to build a gas-powered Buick SUV. It seems the priority is still on the vehicles that are guaranteed to sell and make a profit. Ford still says it will release a $30,000 electric pickup truck in 2027, which could be a game changer. But for the next few years, the focus will be on hybrids and the highly profitable gas-powered trucks and SUVs that line dealer lots today. All of this is happening against a backdrop of global chaos. Car companies are also trying to navigate a minefield of new tariffs. The current presidential administration has placed tariffs on goods from many countries, and the auto industry is a prime target. GM CFO recently warned that these tariffs could cost the company between $3 billion and $4 billion in profit in 2026 alone. To fight back, both Ford and GM are scrambling to move more of their production to the US. GM, for example, is planning to move production of its popular Buick Envision SUV from China to a plant in Kansas to avoid the import taxes. If you found this helpful and want to keep up with stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.